Hi, welcome back. This is the third chapter in the Spring Boot tutorial series. In this chapter, we will be exploring the Spring Web dependency and we will see how to create REST API in our server. So we will be creating a controller class, and in the controller class, we will add two API endpoints. The first API endpoints we add is for getting data from the server. So if you have watched the previous two chapters, you know that we have created an employee table in the database. So this API will allow us to get these employees from the server so that we can use it in the Android client application that we are going to develop in the next chapters. So the first one will be for getting data from the server, and the second one we will create for posting data into the server so that the server can save it. So the second one we will use from our Android application in the upcoming chapters so that we can create new employees and save it in the server. So we will set up these two REST API endpoints. One will be a get endpoint and the second one will be a post endpoint. And then we will use the well-known API testing tool called Postman for testing our API, and we will make sure that the REST API we are developing in this chapter is indeed perfect. So without further ado, let's get started. So let us start our coding. Let us add our controller and add support for REST API into our server application. So far we have reached here. We have configured our project. We have added our employee database model. We have added the DAO data access object service class, and we have added our repository. We have also tested the DAO layer using the test class and created an employee and deleted them. So those things are working now. So the next thing that we want to add is to expose these DAO layer services through an API so that the Android client and the Android device or the Android app can get all the employees and create a new employee, etc. So this is also very easy in Spring Boot, thanks to Spring Boot, because if you were going to set up this through some other like manually, it does take a lot of time. So here what we are going to do is we are going to create a new controller class. So for that I am going to create a new package called controllers. So the package is created because in the future, if we are going to add a new model, then there is going to be multiple controllers. So we need to arrange them. So it is a good thing that it is a good like a method to follow or a convention to follow. So we have the package. Let us create a Java class. So here I am going to name it as employee controller. And yeah, don't ask me this again. And yes, I want to add this file into Git. Okay, now as you know, Spring has special annotation for different kind of things. For repository, we included at repository annotation. Here this is going to be a REST API controller, so we will be using REST controller annotation. So when we provide at REST controller annotation, it will be considered as a REST controller, and the get and post request will be automatically handled by the Spring Boot, because as you will see in a moment, we are just giving them as annotations and it will be automatically processed. So the first thing that we are going to add is a get mapping. Like we need to get all the employees from the database through the REST API. So it is going to be a get request, and for making a get request API endpoint, we use at get mapping annotation. I hope you know the difference between get and get and post operation. It is one of the basics of the REST API. Like at get is usually used for getting data, and post mapping or post operations are used for pushing data, like saving something or sending something to the server. So from the server side, it is for accepting data, and getting means sending data from the server, like that. Okay, so you will get it clear if you don't have it already. So we will create a function called public, and then we are actually sending all the employees. So public list employee, then we will write a function name get all employees. And here actually the get all employees do not have any purpose. I mean, the function name you don't have to worry, because the API endpoint we will be mentioning here. So let's say when when other clients want to access, from the Android app, I want to get all the employee information, I need to use this endpoint or URL. So employee slash get all. Now when this request is coming, we need to return all the employees. So in order to do that, what we need to do is to an access to our DAO, data access object of employee. So we will auto-wire it here. So for that we are using @auto-wired annotation, which will inject the DAO object into this controller class. We have already seen that in chapter 2 during the testing. So let us do that approach here as well. So employee DAO, and I want it as a private object. So as you can see here, it will be automatically injected and this object will not be null. So when someone asks or some devices ask me for all the employees, I can return them just like this, employee DAO dot get all employees, and that's it. That will return all the employees, and we need to test this. So first let us add some employees into the database manually so that we can call this URL and get the data. So in order to do that, let us go to the test class again. Let us make this like a delete functionality disabled in the test code, and here let us open this. So first let us add an employee called Bruce Wayne, like we did before in the chapter 2. So let us run it. So it will add one employee. We need to add one more employee so that we can actually test it. So it is successful. Let us add Rachel DOS building 5 IT. I'm not sure if DOS is the correct spelling. Please don't mind it. Okay, after executing this test, we will have 2 employees in the database. We can confirm that from the MySQL workbench. Select star from Spring Server db.employee, and when we run it, you can see that we have 2 employees here. Regarding the ID, in the last chapter we had 1 and 2. We deleted them, and MySQL internally maintains like a ID, like since it is auto-generated, like you know that the employee ID is auto-generated, right? It is given automatically by the MySQL through the Spring JPA. So 1 and 2 were there, we removed it. So when we create new one, it will resume from where it stopped last time. So that is why it is 3 and 4. Okay, so now we have 2 employees. Now when we make a request to this endpoint, to this URL, we should get 2 employees as a response. So in order to do that, let us run the program again. So we will go into Gradle boot run to start our server. And yeah, now our server is running. Currently our Android application is not yet ready. Like we will be developing that in the next upcoming chapters. So for now, in order to test this API, we need to use a tool like a API testing tool. So there are multiple options available. If you already know a tool called curl, it is a command line tool. You can use curl to send requests, get and post requests. The easiest tool available out there is called Postman. So I will just show you Postman, and it is a Postman API platform, and you can actually use this. It is totally free. You can download it for your system, whether it is Linux or Windows or anything. You can download it. I have already installed it and ready, and we'll be using the Postman tool for testing our REST API. So let us search for Postman. And yeah, so we have the Postman here. In the Postman, in order to test one, let us create a new setup, and here you can specify what kind of request you want to test. So as I have said before, in the REST API programming, you have multiple options like get, post, delete. Options are there. We'll be using get and post. Get for getting data, post for posting data. So in the get section, we need to enter a URL, and here I am running this locally on my local host, so I can use local host. And I need to specify that it is an HTTP protocol because obviously it is an HTTP server, and 9000, that is my port ID, right? Like you can see that I am running the Tomcat or the HTTP server on the port 9000, sorry, not 900, 9000, and we have to give 9000 here, localhost. Then after slash, you know that we have add the endpoint employee slash get all. So we will copy that, then we will paste it here. Okay, then if we send a request, you can see that we are getting Bruce Wayne and Rachel Dawes, the two employees. If we add one more employee for the sake of like proper testing, let us add one more employee, genuine caller, building 6 IT. Let us quickly save him. So I am running the test, which will call the save option in the database, and it will save the employee. And let us wait for the test to complete. And once it is done, when we make the get request, we will get all three customers, sorry, all three employees. So you can see that Bruce Wayne is there, Rachel Dawes is there, Genuine Godfrey is there. Okay, so our get mapping is working. So we have successfully configured the option to get all employees from the server. The next option that we want to give is the save option. Like from the Android app, we need to provide support for creating new employees, right? So in order to do that, we need to use a post operation because they are posting data into the server from the Android or from any client we have. We are posting data into the server, so we'll be using post mapping. So here, instead of at get mapping, we will use post mapping, right? Very simple. Then if you go into the documentation, annotation for HTTP post request, and here rather than returning something, what we are going to do is to save operation. So in order to save an employee, we need to get the employee. So we can get the employee data using at request body annotation. So at request body employee employee. So so what is happening here is we can actually send an employee to this URL, and that employee object will be parsed and taken as an object itself. Here we will see that in a moment in action. So we will get the employee object to be saved, and here we will simply call save employee, and we don't return anything. Yeah, so as you can see right here, we have so it is only just 3 lines of code, 2 lines of code actually. We are just specifying the post mapping URL here. It shouldn't be the same as of that of get mapping because get all is already used. So we will use employee slash save. So when some clients or anyone when send a request to this URL with an employee proper employee object, it will be saved into our database. Now let us test our save API. So before doing the testing, let us do one thing. Let us go to MySQL workbench and clear the database so that no data will be there, and then we can test out our save API by sending some employee object, and it should save into the MySQL database. So here I am going to drop the table. So when I drop it, that table will be removed. So let me close our server and start it again. And when it is started, the table will be automatically created, and then we can add data into that. So let me refresh the schema, and here you can see that we have the employee table, and currently it doesn't have any data. Okay, so now we need to test our slash employee slash save API, so post API. So here for that, let us use our Postman again, the Postman tool, and here we need to give the data and see whether the employee is getting saved. The first thing that we have to choose here is the operation type. So here previously we were using get request for getting all the employees. Currently when we are sending it, we are getting an empty array JSON response because there are no employees in the database. So here instead of get, we need to use post because we are using post request, and here the address is localhost 9000, then employee slash save. So that is correct. Then in order to, we need to give an employee object here because we need to send in this employee data. So for that we will be giving this employee data in a JSON format, because when we checked the get all function we were getting the data in the JSON format. So here for saving we have to give it in the JSON format itself. So for that, let me open this and go to the body section, and in the body section you need to give a raw value. So there are multiple options in the body like none, form data, xform data, encoded, etc. Since we need to give a JSON data and that option is not given there, I think here we can use a JSON like format for like indentation and all. So here we will be giving a raw body to the request. So we have three fields in the employee that we need to give: name, location, and branch. So we are giving that here. Name, location, branch. So let us give some value for the employee so that it will be saved into the database. So here let us say like Jim Gordon. Then we will give like maybe something, some random names, and building 12 is okay. So sorry, it should be Jim Gordon. Okay, so now we are going to save this employee into the database. It should save, like we are sending it into this address and it should automatically save into the database. So I am sending the request and it didn't return anything, but the request was successful. That is why we got the HTTP response 200. The response is empty because here in the controller we are returning void, so no data, no response is given back, but the HTTP request was successful. In order to confirm this, let us go into our MySQL workbench, execute the query again, and you can see that we got the entry. So Jim Gordon is provided. So here we have the entry. So we sent the save request and through the API, and it was accepted here, and it is saved into the MySQL database. Let us do one more thing. Let us test it again. Let us add one more user. So let's say here maybe let us give Harry Potter, location building 100, then branch sorcery, and here let us send it again. And here again, if we go into the MySQL workbench, you can see that that user, that employee is also added here. Now in order to improve the usability, let us try to return the employee, because currently when we use the API we are not like really getting a response. We know that it is successful from the HTTP response code, but we don't really see like what ID it was assigned to, those kind of things. So for that we need to return an employee object. So here if you go into the employee DAO function and look into the save function that we are getting from the Spring repository interface, it returns actually the saved employee object. So if you look into the code, you can see that it will return an employee. So here when we save something, we save it and return the same object. This is important because when we are trying to save something, we are not giving the ID, it is auto generated. So if we want to later use that auto generated value, we have to use the return object. So that is why we are using the repository.save function, and we are using it here in the controller, and here we can give it like employee and return it again. So so as I said, like the advantage of this is that you can actually see like what kind of ID the object was assigned to when it is saved into database. So let us go ahead and add one more customer. So here so let us just give random name James, then building 101, then parent fans. Okay, so here we are giving this data and sending the request, and here you can see that we are getting the response now because we are returning the employee object there, and you can see that the ID 3 was assigned to James. If we execute the same query again with the same name, location, and branch, another James will be added into the employee database and we will get ID 4. So it is it is much better here because we are getting the whole data back after it is saved. So that is why we should always return the object that we are trying to save in an API. Okay guys, so that's about it. Before wrapping up this video, let us just go through the first get request that was also done as part of this controller. Right now, if we execute the get request, we will get 4 employees, because these are the 4 employees that is saved into the database through the API. So that's it guys. We have successfully implemented our controller. There is now option to get all the employees and also for creating a new employee. So we will be using these controllers and API, using this API REST API in our Android application. In the next chapter, we will create an Android app and create a form for creating new employee. So see you on the next one. Bye.